She thought no one would ever know. For years, she covered her arm, never letting anyone glimpse the ink beneath her sleeve. But one unguarded moment, a single tattoo catching the light, exposed everything she had fought so hard to keep hidden. The truth wasn't just shocking. It changed how everyone saw her forever. For years, she lived with a careful rhythm. Every gesture, every movement calculated. Long sleeves in summer, bracelets stacked higher than fashion required, and the kind of posture that always kept her left arm turned slightly away. Most people dismissed it as style or even shyness, but in truth it was survival. She wasn't hiding a scar or a birthmark. What she carried was far more dangerous. Beneath the fabric, etched into her skin, was a tattoo that tied her to a past she had sworn never to speak of again. The ink wasn't decorative. It wasn't the kind of thing someone picked off a parlor wall after a carefree night. No, this symbol had weight. To the untrained eye, it might look like an abstract design, a swirl of lines and sharp angles. But to those who knew, it was unmistakable. It spoke of belonging, loyalty, and history. And to some, it was a mark of danger. Her friends and co-workers never questioned the way she dressed. They simply assumed she had quirks, a preference for modesty, maybe even a touch of insecurity. In reality, her entire life was a balancing act, constantly shifting between blending in and keeping a part of herself locked away. The tattoo was more than ink. It was a key, a silent signature from a chapter of her life most people wouldn't believe if she told them. It represented nights when she had stood in places she shouldn't have been, heard things most people never hear, and made choices that carried consequences she still carried quietly inside. But secrecy is exhausting. Each morning, she layered on fabric and forced a smile, hoping no one noticed how quickly she pulled her sleeves down if they rode up. Each evening, she sighed in relief when she could finally be alone, the weight of performance sliding from her shoulders. And yet, despite her efforts, there was always the risk, the thought that one day someone might see. And if they saw, they would know. The tattoo wasn't just a symbol of who she had been. It was proof. Proof that no matter how far she had come, no matter how much she tried to live as someone new, the past was always inked into her skin, waiting for the wrong glance, the wrong question, the wrong moment. She had sworn to herself that she would take this secret to her grave. No one could know. Not her closest friends, not the people she now worked with, not even those who loved her most. But secrets like hers have a way of clawing to the surface. And it would only take a single mistake, one careless second, for everything to unravel. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, the kind of day that seemed safe, predictable, routine. She was at work, surrounded by people who thought they knew her, people who believed she was exactly who she presented herself to be. The air conditioning had broken, and the office was unbearably warm. For most, it was a mild inconvenience. Rolled-up sleeves, iced coffees, small talk about the heat. But for her, it was a silent battle. The fabric that shielded her secret now felt suffocating, and sweat gathered beneath layers she couldn't afford to remove. For hours she resisted. She kept shifting, tugging, fanning herself with papers, anything to avoid exposing the ink. But then it happened, a moment so small and ordinary yet so catastrophic. She reached for a box on a high shelf, her sleeve caught, and in one swift tug, the fabric slid back. The tattoo was there, bold against her skin, exposed under the fluorescent lights. First, no one noticed. She felt the air touch her arm, and her heart stopped. She pulled down the sleeve in a panic, but it was too late. A pair of eyes, sharp, curious, had already seen. "Wait! What's that?" someone asked, their voice cutting through the hum of the office. She froze. The worst-case scenario she had rehearsed in her mind 1,000 times had arrived. The man stepped closer, brow furrowed as he tried to get another glimpse. "Is that a tattoo? What does it mean?" The room seemed to shift. Conversations quieted. Heads turned. Curiosity spread like wildfire. Her pulse pounded in her ears. For a moment she considered brushing it off, claiming it was just a design, meaningless, something she got when she was young and reckless. But she knew better. Anyone who had seen it clearly enough would recognize its weight. And one person did. From the back of the room, a voice broke the silence. Low, cautious, and laced with recognition. "I know that symbol." The words cut deeper than any accusation. She turned, her eyes meeting his. His expression wasn't casual curiosity, it was shock. He knew. He had seen it before. And if he knew, then everything she had tried to bury was about to rise to the surface. The others laughed nervously, throwing out guesses. Some teased, others pressed for answers. But she couldn't hear them. Her focus was locked on the one man who had spoken. His eyes held the truth. And in that moment, she realized the secret was no longer hers to keep. The tattoo had done what she had spent years avoiding. It spoke for her. And now, the question wasn't if her past would come out, but how much of it this room was about to learn. The room had grown tense. What started as casual curiosity had turned into silence, the kind of silence that demands answers. All eyes were on her, but her gaze stayed fixed on the man who had recognized the tattoo. He didn't repeat himself, but he didn't have to. The weight in his voice when he'd said, "I know that symbol," lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. Her mind raced. She could lie, deny, laugh it off. But lies only last so long, and this wasn't the kind of secret that could be brushed aside. Not anymore. She took a breath, her throat dry, and finally spoke. "It's from a long time ago." The words did nothing to ease the tension. If anything, they sharpened the room's attention. People leaned forward, sensing the crack in her armor. The man stepped closer. His voice was steady but edged with disbelief. "That's not just some tattoo. I've seen it before. You were part of them, weren't you?" The word "them" landed like a hammer. A few faces in the room paled, others filled with confusion. Only a handful understood, but that was enough. Her chest tightened. Years of silence, of pretending, of living as someone else. All of it unraveled in a single moment. "Yes," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "I was." Gasps filled the air. Conversations broke out in hushed tones. Some stared at her like she was a stranger. Others looked uneasy, unsure of what her past meant for who she was now. And that was the hardest part. She had spent so long proving herself in this new life, working harder than anyone, being the most dependable, the most trustworthy. And yet, with one glimpse of ink, everything she had built now felt fragile, as if it might crumble under the weight of old associations. She didn't offer details, not yet. The truth was complicated, filled with shadows and choices made under pressure. Choices she wasn't proud of. The tattoo wasn't a mark of pride but a reminder of where she had come from, of the cost of survival, of the people she had left behind. Some colleagues avoided her eyes, already distancing themselves. Others whispered, hungry for the full story. But one thing was clear. The secret was gone. She no longer controlled the narrative. And yet, in a strange way, there was relief. For years, she had lived in fear of this moment. And now that it had come, she wasn't destroyed. Exposed, yes. Judged, yes. But still standing. The tattoo had revealed her past. But now, what mattered most was what she would do with the truth. Would it haunt her forever? Or would she finally take control of the story that had once controlled her? The answer, she knew, would change everything.